Welcome to the Truth and Democracy podcast. My name is Rich Procida. I'm the founder of the Truth and Democracy Coalition and the producer of the Truth and Democracy podcast. Today is Sunday, November 6th, and I want you to vote. Election day is on the 8th. Remember to get your ballot in before then or on election day. And make sure our allies vote too. Remind your family, your neighbors, your friends. So what I want to do before we begin our program today, will Ukraine win the war? Will Putin use nukes in Ukraine? Part 2. I want to tell you about the Truth and Democracy Coalition and make some announcements. But first, I want to talk about today's show, because sometimes when you read the cards, you don't really get it until later. I can read the cards in the moment, and then in the middle of the night, I'm dreaming, I'm half asleep, half awake, and then boom, it hits me. Oh my God, why didn't I see it? So when this card comes up, it fell down in the reversed position. And so what does it mean? Obvious. It's obvious. There was an assault, burning buildings. Look at that, burning buildings. People falling. Okay, I don't know if you can see it here. People falling out of the windows, death, dying, destruction. It's been reversed. It's been reversed. It's so obvious sometimes. It's so obvious you miss it. But it's right there. The assault has been reversed. Now let's go on to the Truth and Democracy Coalition. We formed the Truth and Democracy Coalition to build a pro-democracy movement in America. It educates the public about disinformation, teaches people to be critical of the propaganda they consume, and provides critical analysis of current events and social issues. We produce media and educational materials, hold seminars and meetings, work with other organizations, and organize events and activities geared toward building a pro-democracy movement in America. The coalition seeks to build communities of people of different faiths and ideologies to defend and promote democracy locally, nationally, and globally. So our YouTube handle is youtube.com/@Truth and Democracy Coalition. So check out our show there, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. On December 11th, we are going to go local. We will be speaking with Stephanie Vallejo, leader of the Whittier Neighborhood Organization and Whittier Term Limits. She will talk about barriers to democracy at the local level and what to do about it in the city of Whittier, California. To register, go to tinyurl.com/Whittier Term Limits. Also, mark your calendars for early next year to be in Whittier for our January 6th Celebrate Democracy event. It will be at 7 p.m. on Friday, January 6th. We will have music, news, and speakers. Then, on January 8th of next year, we will have Braver Angels with us to talk about how they depolarize social and cultural issues by holding discussions and debates. More on that to come. And finally, I want to thank you for your support as we advance forward with our efforts to defend democracy. Go to our website, truthanddemocracycoalition.com. Now, to our tarot reading, Will Ukraine Win the War? Part 2 of Will Putin use nukes in Ukraine?
When Vladimir Putin invaded a peaceful Ukraine, his brutal shock troops committed hideous war crimes against women, children, and the elderly. He bombed cities, towns, and villages. America and the world gave Ukraine weapons, supplies, and intelligence. The Ukrainians put their courageous soldiers in the line of fire. With great sacrifice, this alliance broke the invasion, pushed it back, liberated millions. Victory for Ukraine is in sight, but the war isn't over. And the new front is in Washington, where MAGA Republicans want a Putin victory. They'll cut off aid to Ukraine if they take power. You heard that right. They want America to switch sides, help Putin win, threatening us with nuclear annihilation. It's sick. It's wrong. It's MAGA. If they win in November, Putin wins, and the blood will be on our hands.
The Lincoln Project paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising.
All right, let's ask, and we may get a similar response. And that may be the response right there. Let's ask, uh-oh. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. The tower. The tower. The destruction. Self-destruction. Just nothing good can come from using nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Nothing good can come. Let's take a look at what Biddy Terrell says. So this card deals with a long-term view. Upright, it means sustainable results, perseverance, investment. Reversed, and I think it's a reversed card in this case, because it's a lack of a long-term vision, limited success or reward. So again, attacking Ukraine was short-sighted. He just wanted to take Ukraine to make money. He doesn't have a long-term view. He lacks a long-term view. It's all short-term. How can I get money? How can I get money? We see upright, it talks about investment. And also, he's not going to succeed. That's what this card is telling me. He's not going to succeed. So that may answer that question, that if he were to use nuclear weapons, he's not thinking. They need to have a long-term view to look at this in the long term. And the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine ruins that investment, ruins the money he could make, and probably won't do it. Well, let's just ask anyway. Let's ask whether he will use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. And I think we've probably already got the answer to that. It looks like it's coming out no, but I'm going to see what happens here. Okay. So again, the future card is not a major arcana card. You'd think that if it were a nuclear disaster, it would be a major arcana card. It's not. The first card is neither that, but it is reverse, and it is the Four of Pentacles, the Four of Pentacles. And that's what it looks like. Okay. There we have a king with his money. This is the background, a king with his money. Right? This is all about money. Don't think it's about anything other than money and power. Now, I said it was reversed, so let's see. It may mean a lack of money and power, that the background of this reason why he's using threatening nuclear weapons is because of weakness. He's weak and he doesn't want to be attacked by NATO. When we talk about a no-fly zone and NATO involvement, one of the things that I usually point out is that the only drawback, and maybe there's other drawbacks, but one major drawback is that it would motivation for his troops and his country. The only thing he can do is tell his people that NATO and the whole Western world is attacking him, and we would make that true. And that would be an existential crisis for Russia. However, we can't just let him use a nuke. We can't. We just can't. And if he does, there's got to be consequences. Those consequences got to be severe. I mean, we cannot have that person in a leadership role who is leading a nation who is willing to use nuclear weapons. Maybe when the United States didn't really understand the power of them, he got power hungry, used it more than once. That was a terrible mistake. We didn't need to do that. Of course, it led to the defeat of the authoritarian forces at that time. So let's take a look at the tarot reading here. So this is the Four of Pentacles, right? This is what it says: overspending, greed, self-protection. That's the background of it. It's amazing how these cards can work out that way, but they do. Overspending, greed, self-protection. Those are the motivating. This is the factors behind it. This is about money, and he's trying to keep himself in power and protect himself. And he's overbuilt it. He's overspent. He doesn't have the resources anymore. He doesn't have the bombs. He doesn't have it. He's going to lose. So he's in a bad way. Now, what's interesting is the current card. The current card is strength, right? Strength. Let me show it to you here. There you go. There's an infinity sign above the lady, and the lion, which represents strength. And the woman is opening the jaws of the lion, right? Opening the jaws of the lion. Okay. So this is a present card, and this is telling us that what we need to do. He's weak. We need to be strong. This is all about power and strength in the present. And the last card is upright, and it is the Seven of Swords. And you can see the man's running away with swords in his hands, looking behind. This card indicates deception. This is a deceptive move. He's threatening to do it because he wants us not to act, because he wants to scare people, because he thinks he could use his propaganda to get people to start forcing America and other Western countries to stop supporting Ukraine, that he can make people so afraid that they bury their heads in the sand and don't care about the people of Ukraine enough to defend our own interest in democracy, that we're just going to run and hide. He can scare people so much. He's just deceiving us, and it's all deception. So the answer looks to me to be no, he's not going to use nuclear weapons. He's not going to use nuclear weapons. That's what this tarot reading is telling me. And part of it is not just because he's bluffing, which he is bluffing according to these readings. It's because the United States and NATO is not. You know, if you play poker, you know, if you could run a bluff across a person and they're just going to fold, you run the bluff all the time. If the person you're against will fold 100% of the time or a high percentage of the time to your bluff, you bluff no matter what you hold. So he's bluffing. He's trying to scare us, trying to get us to fold. I'm going to ask one last question on this Hallows Eve, and that is, who will win this war? Will you? Let's say. We have to phrase the question so we get the right answer. So, will Ukraine win this war? Let's see what the cards give us if we switch the subject from Putin to Ukraine. It's easier with a yes or no answer than to say maybe the larger question, who will win? You have to make a distinction between, you know, whether that's going to be Putin, whether the card represents Putin or not. If we just ask whether Ukraine's going to win the war, we might get a clearer answer. Who knows? Here we go. Doesn't look too bad to me. Reading doesn't look too bad. So the first card, this is reversed. This is the 10 of Swords. Let me show it to you here. This is the background. 10 swords into a man's back. That seems to me to describe Ukraine. This is the background of this question, which is, who will win? And we're talking about Ukraine. And I can see how that would represent Ukraine. Let's see what Biddy Tarot says. That's the 10 of Swords. Okay. So upright, it's painful endings, deep wounds, betrayal, loss, crisis. But reversed, it's recovery, regenerating, resisting, and inevitable end. So that's probably what this card, because it was reversed. They're resisting. This is resistance. Background resistance. Recovery, but painful endings. But this is the past. Deep wounds, betrayal, loss, crisis. Could be mistakenly reversed. It came out reversed. But I think that when it comes to the reading, it's resistance. Reversed, they're resisting. So that's that card. Now, the next card for the present position on this question of whether Ukraine will win the war is the King of Wands. I want to tell you that this seems to me to be Vladimir Zelensky. The wands sort of recognize magic, skills, abilities. And I think that represents Zelensky, president of Ukraine, that he's the leader of this time. He's the leader that is doing the magic, in a sense, you know. Let's see what the card says in Biddy Tarot. Oh, this is our first wand of the day, and it happens to be the King of Wands. And so, and this is exactly what I think: a natural born leader, vision, honor, entrepreneur. This is, Zelensky is very important to this victory. So the last card is upright as well, and it is the Page of Cups, which I think is probably a good card. Up and coming world leader, or, you know, obviously it's a small country, and the page is kind of like a royalty, but at the lower levels of royalty. So this represents, I think, and we look at all these cards probably have the yellow and blue, but look at his feet. It's the Ukrainian colors. It's the Ukrainian flag. It's the freaking Ukrainian flag. He's got a cup. It looks like he's got a fish coming out of that. He's got a fish coming out of that. So basically, he's got something. He pulled the fish out of the cup. Yes, let's see what Biddy Tarot has to say about this card. So this is the Page of Cups. Again, not a major arcana card, but still. And here we have creative opportunities, intuitive messages, curiosity, possibility. So at this point, and the future is not written in stone. Sometimes we think when we read tarot or predict the future, it's because there's somehow like a book out there. There is a quantum physics theory that whatever has happened has already happened. Whatever is going to happen has already happened. Whatever has happened in the past is happening now. That somehow time is an illusion and it's a fourth dimension, and we're traveling through that dimension. But I don't think that means that everything is determined. I think it means, because I think human beings can have an impact. That's why I think that. And I think we do have free will and free choice. And so if human beings can have an impact and change things, then the future can't be fixed always. There may be some points in time, like they say on Doctor Who, that are fixed. But I believe that the future is not determined necessarily all the time, that we can have an impact. And that's why this shows us a good possibility that Ukraine would win this war. It's not written in stone. We need to continue to support Ukraine. We need to continue to arm Ukraine. And if Putin does use nuclear weapons or a dirty bomb, we need to respond. This is how we stop World War III. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's been educational. It's my opportunity to practice my divination and also to talk about the situation in Ukraine and other issues and our democracy, and how an attack on democracy anywhere is an attack on democracy everywhere. This is a global assault on democracy led by foreign nations and self-interested propagandists. It's very important for us to come together in America to lift up the American tradition of free and fair elections and the peaceful transfer of power, to hold up America's grand experiment in democracy. Our freedom and our children's freedom and welfare depends on it. The future of the world at this moment of crisis is either going to go into an authoritarian, dark climate change disaster, or we're going to do everything we can to keep the forces of authoritarianism and evil at bay. This is Rich Procida. This has been the Truth and Democracy Podcast, Halloween special. Thank you.
The Republicans are telling us exactly what they would do on Election Day. It's the same story as 2020. Republicans will claim victory before every vote is even counted. They'll say they won, that the election is over, that we should stop the count. Teams of Republican lawyers will try to strike down the ballots of millions of American voters, especially African Americans. Fake claims of voter fraud, intimidation, and even violence at polling places and drop boxes. Republicans aren't willing to lose, even when they do. But there's no voice louder than your vote. Don't be intimidated. That's right. That's your vote. That's not their vote. Don't let nobody walk up to you and tell you that you can't vote. Cast your absentee ballot and check it. If you vote on Election Day, stay in line. Get it done. They're counting on you to be scared, intimidated, afraid, which you shouldn't be. You really should not be. Nobody should be walking up to you while you're trying to vote. That's your vote. Make your voice heard. Prove them wrong. Don't just tell them no. Tell them hell no. Hell no. H-E double hockey sticks N-O. No. And this message has been approved by Leslie Jones.